So the World Development Report by the World Bank basically describes a learning crisis not only in India but around the world. And to make the story short, we started measuring learning outcomes in across India in the primary sector and elementary sector, and we found that nearly 50% children go to standard 5 and they can barely read standard 2. Now this is a huge problem. This is not restricted to India. Now we have found out that this is happening around the world, especially in the developing world. And this causes a huge learning crisis. Now, why is this happening? There are efforts going on to try to fix this problem, but education has bigger problems than just this. Let me switch to a story that a lot of you seem not to have heard of. I was telling it yesterday to some of your IET organizers and they didn't know the story. So the story is something that Hans Christian Andersen wrote 300 years ago, I think. And it's called The Emperor's New Clothes. Have you heard the story? Some of you might have. So there was this emperor who wanted a new set of clothes every day, and expensive ones too. And then two swindlers came to his kingdom and said, you know, we will weave excellent clothes for you, you give us a lot of money. He said, done, I'll give you a lot of money. What kind of clothes will you make? And they said, these clothes are special quality, they're magical. We'll weave them for you, but remember, stupid people and incompetent people will not be able to see. They will be not visible to these kinds of people. So king thought this was really magical and very good to have. And so these weavers went about their work, and when time came, they came to the king and said, okay, here are your clothes and wear them. And the king could not see the clothes, but he did not know what to do now. Because if I say that there are no clothes and I can't see the clothes, then I'll be called stupid or incompetent. Didn't want that. Other courtiers of his court also did not know what to say. Now they said, oh, very beautiful, kitne achhe kapde hain. So he undressed, stood naked in front of the mirror, and those fellows came and said, ye kapde pehno, isko pehno, ye dekho kaisa acha hai. And then he went out into the streets. And people knew that only incompetent and stupid people will not be able to see the clothes. So everybody said कि कपड़े बहुत अच्छे हैं, वाह वाह, बहुत खूब. Until one little child said, लेकिन ये तो नंगा है. So then everybody started saying, look what the child said, नंगा है. Why am I telling you this story? I think our education system is such that we know that Raja nanga hai. We know that the education system is not working, it is broken, but all of us go through that education system. I went through that, my children went through that, and now their children also will go through that, and yet we know this is not working. How do we know this is not working? How do we know? I told you already one reason that, you know, nearly half the children go to 5th standard, and you may say, this is just government schools, not private schools. No, that's not true. If you control for the background of the family in the quantitative analysis, you will find that it doesn't make a difference whether the child goes to a private school or a government school. The school has very little to contribute to the quality of education of the child. Now, this is a strange finding that you will say. You know that people who have lots of money, or people who have not that much money but still a lot of money, send their children to private schools. Yes, I suppose a lot of you came from private schools as well. But then when you go to private schools, come 10th standard exam, you also go to coaching classes because 10th mein score karna hai. Then 12th standard, you go to bigger coaching classes. Then you have to go to JEE. I heard that IET also has an entrance exam. So for that you have to go to other coaching classes. The question is, if all these coaching classes are useful, why do you go to school? So I think we all realize that the school is not enough, or school is not going to do it. It's inadequate. Nahi karega. And then the fun begins even after that you get good marks in 10th standard, good marks in 12th standard, even get into fantastic institutions, and then say, bas, वो 10वीं का तो count ही नहीं होता है. Nobody looks at my 10th certificate, nobody looks at my 12th certificate. What has happened now is all these certificates that the schools give, the boards give, the universities give, are of very little, if at all, any value. Often not much value either. It depends upon what subject you are in. If there's a MA in some arts, I know in this audience very few people will be BA and MA arts. Are there any? Oh, you are? Oh, now that is a difficult one. Okay. People are now saying that these universities and colleges don't work. This is a case. And I said, but everybody, as I said, goes to these colleges. Now, how do you fix this broken system? Why has it happened? Aisa kyun hua hai? I think what we miss is that the school system, schools were created for two basic reasons. One reason we talk about a lot. The second reason is not talked about, but you can see that it is there. One reason is, we said, if there are schools in every village, every town, every basti, then all children will get quality education. That was our hope. And that's what we started all these schools for. So universalization of quality education globally was an agenda, is still an agenda. You look at Millennium Development Goals, Sustainable Development Goals for 2030, they are all saying the same thing. So that is one goal. And then we will blame teachers for not doing their work, we'll blame so-and-so for not doing their work, government नहीं करती है, ये नहीं करते. सारी दुनिया की तरफ उंगली दिखाएंगे, लेकिन ये तीन उंगलियां हमारी तरफ जो है, इसकी तरफ हम ध्यान नहीं देते हैं. कि आपने क्या किया, आपने बच्चों को ठीक से पढ़ाया, आपने दूसरे की कोई मदद की. We don't look at that. खैर, now the question is, what is the second reason why the school system exists? As you know, India's population in 1947, you may know this, or 1951 when the census was carried out, was about 36 crores, 360 million. Today it is 130 crores, 1.3 billion people. Now this population increase means the number of children is also going on increasing. Today, the proportion of children who are in school and staying in school is very high. Nearly 100%. We do the survey every year and we find that 97% children in India, rural India, urban India will say that we go to school. Whether go regularly or not, whether they learn or not is a different thing, but they are all going to school and this is the school system. Now, if all these children were to go up and knock on the doors of all the IETs of this world and the IITs and the medical institutions, you won't be able to do it. So filtering so-called best students is something that is important. And so, there is a conflict. The school has to do two things: universalize quality education and select children. And so, what happens is the curriculum gets heavier and heavier as you go higher. And then you have to fight to succeed, to get into IIT, you must go the JEE classes. And 4 lakh people will appear for examination to get into this school education, into the IIT entrance exam. As a result, what happens is the school system, which was meant for all and a sort of a universal quality, is lost. And what happens is, if you start with 100 children, let's take India as one class of 100 children, if you start, then slowly, in the first place, children whose parents are well-to-do, well-educated, they form the front of the class and the others are the back of the class. As the children grow older, if they don't have early childhood education, kindergarten nahi mila hai, so they form up the back of the class, the rest form the front of the class. And slowly as they grow older, the front of the class starts shrinking. And basically स्कूल में बच्चों को बोला जाता है कि तुमसे ये होने वाला नहीं है, 10वीं वगैरह तुम्हारी बस की बात नहीं है. You are not going to make it. Engineer वगैरह का ख्वाब छोड़ दो. Nobody says it directly these days, but the kids already know that I am not going to make it. And then those who do make it are told that if you pass 10th standard, 12th standard, you will get this, that and the other. But we forget that in the Indian economy, and the Indian economy is we are 1.3 billion people, about 500 million, 50 crore people form the workforce of India out of all this. Others are not counted in the workforce. And these 50 crore people, out of these 50 crore people, how many people get salaried jobs? You can look it up, anybody can Google this. Salaried jobs are restricted to about 15 to 18%. ILO, International Labor Organization, says 18% based on Indian statistics. 18% people in India have salaried jobs. All others are daily wages, ya professionals kaho, ya entrepreneurs, but they are not salaried workers. So the point is that now to say that the education system is there to give you jobs is not correct. So the emperor has been telling everyone that I have beautiful clothes and you can see that there are no clothes, and yet you have to keep on going to the education system. Then the question is, what do we do? This examination system is the point to start. Now I don't know how you can do it. There are a lot of people who stay outside the education system and actually can do better. I disregard the education system. I believe Manish talked to you today. He completely learned entirely outside the education system. He learned on his own. And today, our technology is at such a point that if you want to educate yourself, you can. But is that a mass solution? Some people can do it for themselves. Can that be a mass solution? I think it can be. It can be done. For example, our technology today will allow you to take 10th standard or 12th standard examination anytime, anywhere. Is that possible or not? I think you know that it is possible. Our examination system only focuses on writing answers, written answers, right? And there are some multiple choice ticks and some are essay type questions, right? I don't see faces saying yes or no. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. But now the technology actually allows you to do speech to text, right? You can do a lot of text to speech also. All this technology is developed. It can look at your faces and decide what you know, what you don't know. With this new technology, changing the education system is entirely possible. If an employer wants to know, and this is the fun part, when you go to look for jobs, you go to any employer and you present all the certificates to him. Does he really want to look at the certificates, or does he want to know what you can do? I think employers will tell you that they are looking for people and what their capabilities are and not their certificates. So tomorrow, if you want to say that I know English, well, they have to interview you and see whether you know English. There's an alternate method. You can put up a sound file, video file, and an employer can look at it. So the way employers decide whether you can get a job or not, whether you are competent or not, is changing. The selection procedure was the old examination system. It can change again. And in the new modern technology, the new technology that we have, it is entirely possible to change the examination system completely. If you start there, then the learning system can change as well. It cannot be the system with barriers today. Today what happens is, if you have not done 12th standard, for example, then you cannot appear for something. Yesterday, one of your volunteers, Ayushi, was telling me that medicine karna tha, but she didn't do biology in her 12th standard, so she could not go to medicine. Ab nahi ja sakte kyunki wo biology 12वीं में नहीं किया था. Is that correct? I think it sounds right. So if the question is, if I can appear for your entrance exam, medical entrance exam, and if I pass the entrance exam, why do you want to stop me? But the system with filters has created barriers. Now I think the new system requires barrier-free education. Let me end. Yeah. Now that barrier-free education, creating that is something that is difficult, because there is that emperor without clothes, and you have to bow down to that emperor and say, Maharaj, aap bahut kya tusi great ho. So uske liye karna padta hai. Now how do you stay away from it? I think one way is that it is actually happening. People are disregarding a lot of learning. I think it is time to say, stop this nonsense of requirement of 12th standard education. Okay? Stop this nonsense of 75% attendance. Because, exactly. Because Because you test me whether I know or not. If I know, if I've learned, then give me the credit. If I don't know, what difference does it make whether I attended 100% days or not? So I think these are changes that are possible. As a friend of mine said, so what you are saying is don't modify the system. You know, a lot of people, we have spent, your host said with great admiration that I worked for education 25 years. God knows what I did. So, yet 25 years में we have tried to modify the system. कि इसको improve करो. उसको करना ज़रूरी है. I'm not saying that we stop the efforts to improve the system, because in the primary section, the children are going to their neighborhood schools, they need to learn basics and foundations that is required. But as you go higher, where the barriers start coming in, you need to remove those barriers. And as my friend said, we need to replace this system by something else. And it will happen if employers start respecting degrees that are not the university degrees. And I think that's already happening. And I hope that the education system will change by the time you have children. I hope the audience here, I think, doesn't have children yet. Not that you know of. Okay. So I hope in the next 10-15 years, we'll be able to replace the system and bring a new barrier-free system that you all like. Thank you.